Hi guys, here from Pax Europiana. I'm in Elbasan in this industrial brown land, wasteland, which the communist Enver Hoxha and Chinese communists have left over in the years when Albania was an ally of China. I want to show you some of these facilities here today. It's very big, you know, this is really a very big industrial asset. Hard to estimate how many square kilometers of land was used by the communist authorities for industrialization. This is the chrome smelter, which is now in the hand of the Turkish company. This is, to my best knowledge, the wood factory. And this is now battery recycling. This is metal scrap recycling. Over there, it looks like a camp. It's all guarded, and I have, you know, the thing is, first of all, to blame for this is of course Enver Hoxha and his communist system. The Chinese, they came here probably to help, but the way to cluster all the industrial assets, the refinery, chemical factory, steel factory, chrome smelter, wood factory, something else, tiles factory in one gigantic, in one big valley, because here over there's the mountains, this old road to Tirana. There is now the highway on the other side. There is then the coast, and that's Macedonia. And obviously what is true, that Albania and Macedonia, Kosovo, they have a lot of mineral resources, and you need to smelt them, you need to produce them. And the system of autarky, that was the idea of Enver Hoxha, to be detached from the world, to use only internal resources and to do everything inside alone. That was the system. But then it was never economically rational. You cannot behave as if you would be alone in the world. It's not working. And then, of course, with the technology standards of the Chinese from the 1960s, which they were also dubious at the time, and then to use everything and to build everything in one big valley and to do all the industrialization basically in one big Elbasan valley, because it's a center, it was logistically easy to do, and then they clustered it all here. And to my knowledge, it's the biggest industrial area of Southeastern Europe. But the conditions, obviously, then they built it very badly. They always used a very low-level technology already back then in the 1960s and 70s. They never had energy to do all these things, so that is another big issue, obviously, when you do want to do industrial smelting and metallurgical processes. And then obviously came the 90s, and they were totally bankrupt. The transition, everything ended in chaos. And then 96 and 97, there was the anarchy, many of the factories were looted, and then came the complicated transition when there was not enough energy for 10 years, even for the households. Then in 2010 it developed a bit better, and then in 2008 came the financial crisis, and who really wanted to invest in big metallurgical refineries and all these things in Albania? And now, 30 years of the transition, basically the refinery is removed by scrap. It's basically scrapped, so it's used as metal scrap. The one in Balch, there's another industrial area, and there's a number of others actually. It's not the only one in Albania where this was done. In Fier down there is this petrol capital. I've not seen that one up to now. I will also take a look on that one. And now what is happening, for example, in last year, some smaller construction material companies have rented out or privatized part of these places. But if I say that, for example, the place here continues 2 kilometers. Yeah, this is huge, and it's a real big problem. And you know how to fix it? I think the only way I can imagine is, of course, to continue to put small and medium enterprises in it. But first of all, what is needed is much more energy in the country to make all these energy-intensive industrial metallurgical processes somehow rationally doable. So you need several thousand of megawatts of generation, best with solar, and also extend the hydropower capacity, but the solar is the only real option. and also to gasify the existing coal in Kosovo, and to build the railways, and then to get investors into at least part of the metallurgic process, which is now the minerals are then exported, to get them out and get the investors in and really revitalize these areas. But the old stuff, the environmental legacy of communism, because this is one of the most polluted areas of Southeastern Europe. I mean, not a big surprise. There's a lot of leftover stuff, and there is a lot of things which need to be done, to be cleaned up. The earth, the water, obviously the air, the infrastructure. You know, this is a really big task. And how shall small countries, in small countries with a small taxpayer base, who have also to invest in public welfare, in streets, in infrastructure, in water infrastructure, in whatever, yeah? How should they then clean up the crimes of the communist past? And we have not let any country do that alone. After 1990, the DG Enterprise, we have cleaned up Malta, the landfill, remember that one? We have cleaned up in Lithuania, to Poland, to Hungary, you know, all these things were cleaned up. And obviously by EU funding. So it must be an assessment what is there as part of the EU negotiations, and then must be an action plan. And Albania has already 70% of GDP, debt to GDP. Not like in Kosovo where there is a fiscal leverage and leeway. No, this must be paid by the European Union directly. And this can only be done and argumented inside the European Union. So if you're green and clean, and if you want to have a cleaner world, it starts right here, right now. Because this form of industrial disaster legacy, how to leave it like that? I mean, it must be then it must be a plan for revitalization. What can really be done? The buildings can be reused. Some of the metal processes make a lot of sense. You know, producing solar panels, for example, here, not in China. Producing nickel, not here, not in China. Doing things like what is from the natural resources here reasonable. Produce first the energy. Do things here in the metal processing, not only exporting the minerals towards other production facilities. And of course accept probably a bit lower standards than in the EU in the beginning for a transition period, but first of all making clear there's EU funding for building things up. Because look at it, I mean, there's the massive need to do that. And if we are taking environmental stuff serious, and then we are not helping Albania, and by the way also Kosovo, and by the way also Serbia, and by the way also Macedonia and Bosnia, I can make similar videos in all the 6 countries, because it's everywhere such an industrial asset, maybe a bit less in Serbia, but I don't know it very well. And this is something I think it's absolutely time to get it done. So please help to clean up Albania in very concrete manner by getting it into the European Union. Please, hello everybody, don't leave this country alone. It's one Europe, one climate, and we need to fix it together. Bye.